Hey everyone, Cardlin here with the newest installment of Fridays with Cardlin. It is April 14th, 2017, and this is officially episode number 34. So here's how these work now. On the second and fourth Friday of each month, I'll do an out-of-character behind-the-scenes style video. The first one of each month, this one, I'll ramble on a topic and just gab at y'all for a bit. And in the second one, I'll show my Patreon patrons some love, as well as answer some questions or read some quotes they may have. Now, first, some quick announcements. Two things. One is I've changed the feedback form. It's very bare bones and basic, straight to the point. You can find a link to it in the description below. Also, I have a new system for picking out scripts and submitting script ideas and all that good stuff. But I won't go into too much detail as there's a whole other video on it, should be up shortly. So, what are we talking about this week? My culture. Being a Filipino man in America, and my personal experience as growing up as a minority here in America. Now, just as a disclaimer, I'm probably going to get a little real, you know? There might be some sensitive topics, like I'll be discussing racism, and they might be controversial. I just want to make it clear that these are just my personal experiences. I'm not trying to represent anyone or stand for anything or speak on behalf of anyone. This is just my thoughts and my opinions based on how I grew up and my situation and what I've experienced so far in life. So I want to start off with saying why I'm grateful. Being a Filipino American really gives me that unique flair. You know, it lets me have a deep and rich culture that I can celebrate. And I'm sure it's different from all Filipino families, but for mine at least, it means that my family's really close and I have a huge network of people that I can rely on, people who love me and people who will take care of me. You know, I've said this before, but it's an amazing feeling being able to go into a house and knowing that everybody in that house has your back. Like, it'll be full of like 30 people, but you know, every single person in the house will like ride for you, so to speak. You know what I mean? And it's a really awesome feeling. As a quick side note, I want to say that I recently saw the movie Get Out, which, I have to say, as like, you know, as a minority male growing up in America who's been out to different states that are predominantly white, you know, I've definitely felt that way before, which is to say, you know, kind of scared being the sole minority in a sea of unfamiliar faces. But I guess that is kind of the territory of growing up a minority in America, you know? And, you know, as great as being a Filipino American is, and just to be clear, I am 100% Filipino. I know a lot of people have been saying that I'm half Filipino or part Filipino. That's not the case. I want to say that, you know, things aren't always great. You know, there's kind of a feeling of not belonging sometimes in the Asian community, or like a feeling of being a second-class citizen. This is kind of like a sensitive topic that most people won't talk about directly, but they kind of, I don't know, I feel so far in my experiences as being part of the Asian community, that I almost feel like a minority among minorities, in the sense that there's this weird, I'm probably using this word wrong, but dichotomy of dark skin versus light skin. And, you know, I've heard phrases before that are like not very flattering, and I'm sorry if this triggers anyone or anything, but just being real, I've heard phrases like Filipinos are like the black people of Asia, or like the Mexicans of Asia, which in and of itself is offensive in so many ways, but I also kind of get it, and I also kind of feel it, you know? I kind of feel like we're, I don't know, second-class citizens sometimes. And don't get me wrong, I have plenty of friends who are all different types of Asians. Like, I have Korean friends, Japanese friends, Chinese friends, you know, like friends from all angles of Asia, and I haven't personally experienced any kind of like racism, at least none that wasn't like friendly, like joking. But I know, especially, back home in Asia, there's definitely certain stigmas about dark skin versus light skin, and you will definitely be treated a certain way. And I know contrary to the way the Cardlins are drawn, I'm relatively brownish. So, even in the Philippines, it's weird. Even in the Philippines itself, it's like, among other Filipinos, I've noticed that there's a certain stereotype wherein it's better to be light-skinned. Like, the more light-skinned you are, the better. And it's really weird way of being. It's almost like a way of feeling like out of place, even among your own people, especially in the Asian community. It's never truly felt right, or at least it's always felt like we've been, I don't know. And I'm sure other Southeast Asians who are brown may feel the same way. And maybe you'll agree with me, maybe you won't, but this, again, it's just my personal experiences, but it's certainly something I've always felt. Now, in 2020, the U.S. Census Bureau will reclassify Filipinos not as Asians, but as Pacific Islanders. Like, we're currently Asians and will be reclassified as Pacific Islanders. Now, when I first heard that, I didn't like it. I always thought, hey, I grew up Asian, like, why would I want to be anything else? How can you just decide what I am? But I thought about it more, and I read into it more, and they said, like, because of culture and the way, Filipinos are compared to a lot of other Asian cultures, we're kind of more similar to Pacific Islander cultures, both in, I don't know, maybe genetic makeup, but also more in, like, culture and, like, I don't know, just, like, the way we are, I guess. And, I've been kind of stewing on this idea for a while, and I've been, like, kind of thinking about it a lot, and it's silly, to care so much about labels, and who cares about who you are or what you are. Just be yourself, and everybody's experience is completely different and unique to themselves. But I've thought about it a lot, and this is gonna sound kind of silly, but if you know me, it won't sound too silly, because I'm a huge nerd, and a lot of my life is based off of the pop culture I experience and watch and live through. But this past Christmas season, I saw Moana, and it skyrocketed to being my very favorite Disney movie. And as somebody who grew up on Disney movies, that's a huge statement. And I've seen it a few times now, and I can't watch it without crying. I just get overwhelmed because, for the first time in my life, it finally feels like I belong somewhere. Like, I grew up as an only child around a bunch of people who have tons of siblings, so that already kind of made me feel out of place. Then for high school, I went to the Philippines, and being the only, like, American student there, that kind of made me feel out of place. And then coming back here after high school and seeing, like, the huge change that high school had on my friends. Like, in the Philippines, life was so pure and innocent in comparison. I came back out here, and all my friends were, like, on drugs or, like, pregnant, or everybody just made these huge drastic changes, and I was still relatively young and innocent. And I've always kind of felt out of place here, because high school culture out here is such a huge thing. It really defines a lot of American culture, and kind of tends to dictate the kind of people that people become. And it always felt weird, not knowing, like, what a prom was like, or not knowing, not reading things like Catcher in the Rye, like all these things that are just taken for granted that everybody mentions all the time that I just don't know about. But, to go back to Moana, to finally see myself represented in popular culture, which is huge for a nerd who bases his whole life around the popular culture that he's, he or she's into. It's just, it's really amazing. And, you know, getting to see this whole rich tapestry of Pacific Islander history and heritage just celebrated so beautifully on the big screen. And yeah, you know, some people may feel like Moana is racial appropriation or cultural appropriation, and that it's more offensive and it does more damage than it does good. Whatever, you know, like, to be honest, I'm just glad to finally see myself on the screen and not as like comic relief or not as some silly side character. You know, we were the main event and we did it great, and we were so amazing. And Moana is such an amazing, strong, independent princess, and it's just so great to finally be represented and to feel like we have a spot and we have a voice. You know, I don't know what the future holds. I can't tell which way things are going to go. I don't know how the Pacific Islander community is going to accept us, but I'm personally looking forward to 2020 and seeing how it all works out. And I just want to put this out there. I hold no ill will against the other races, any other cultures. I know it's just the way the world works, and it's just the way the Asian society's always been, at least from my specific point of view, from what I've experienced and what I've heard and researched. That's what I've noticed. I know it's not all the way everybody's like that, and I know that I personally have lots of Asian friends who treat me perfectly nice and normal. But yeah, you know, I'm proud to be Filipino in a way now that I didn't always know or have. And I kind of feel like we're finally finding our place, you know? Not that we didn't have an amazing place as is, but it just feels like growing up in America where labels matter so much. I wish they didn't, but finally knowing that we'll belong to a culture that seems familiar to us is great. Whew. And there we have it. Another Fridays with Cardlin video down and done. Now, regardless of what race, ethnicity, gender you are, or what culture you come from, we're all going to have different experiences and different opinions that grow from them. It's important not to exclude those who disagree with us or who are different from us, but to talk to them, see where they're coming from, and realize that there are very few things that are as simple as right and wrong ways of thinking. And just because I'm sorta maybe a YouTuber now and YouTubers say these things, don't forget to subscribe and like my videos if you like them, and maybe tell your friends why not. I believe that about brings us to an end, so yeah. Cheers.